You're at a family dinner when someone asks the question, "So, when are you thinking about kids?" The air shifts, everyone waits. You smile, the automatic kind, and say something light, something vague, something that buys you another 6 months before they ask again. But inside, there's a different conversation happening, a quieter one. The one where you wonder why you don't feel what you're supposed to feel. Why the idea of motherhood doesn't pull at you the way it seems to pull at everyone else. Why, when you imagine your future, that particular picture stays blank, not empty, just not yours. And beneath that, the creeping question, what's wrong with me? Nothing. But we need to talk about why you might think there is. What you're experiencing has a name, not a diagnosis, but a shape. It's called internalized maternal expectation, the invisible pressure women carry, not because they chose it, but because culture, family, and biology narratives fused it into the definition of womanhood itself. For centuries, we've been told that wanting to be a mother is natural, that it's written into our cells, that the desire will arrive one day like a biological alarm clock, unbidden and undeniable. And for many women, it does. But for others, maybe you, it doesn't. And that absence gets misread as selfishness, as immaturity, as a phase you'll outgrow once you meet the right person or get a little older. Here's what psychology knows. The absence of a desire is not the presence of a flaw. You're not broken, you're not behind, you didn't miss a developmental milestone. You're a woman whose identity, values, and vision for a meaningful life simply don't include motherhood. And that is not a deficit, it's data. Let's go back, not to pathologize, but to understand. The roots of maternal ambivalence or clear disinterest aren't always loud or obvious. Sometimes they grow in the quietest soil. For some women, it begins in childhood. You might have been the eldest daughter in a chaotic home, the one who parented your siblings, who soothed your mother, who learned early that caregiving was obligation, not choice. By the time you reached adulthood, you'd already raised a family. The idea of doing it again feels like returning to a job you never applied for. For others, it's subtler. You grew up watching your mother disappear. Not literally, but slowly, year by year, as her identity folded into mother and nothing else. You saw her joy shrink, her dreams deferred, herself become secondary. And some part of you made a quiet vow, not me, not like that. And then there's the cultural layer. We've inherited centuries of narratives that conflate womanhood with motherhood so tightly they feel synonymous. To be a woman is to nurture. To want children is to be whole. To choose otherwise is to reject your nature. But here's the truth, psychology has known for decades. Desire is not universal. It's shaped by temperament, by values, by the life you actually want to live, not the one you were told to want. None of this is about blame, not your mother, not your culture, not even the part of you that absorbed the message. It's about recognizing that the script was written long before you arrived, and you have every right to set it down. Let's talk about what happens in your brain when this conflict lives inside you. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, flags social rejection as danger. When you express ambivalence about motherhood and someone reacts with disappointment, judgment, or concern, your nervous system reads that as, "I'm not safe here. I've said the wrong thing." So you learn to edit yourself, to soften your truth, to say, maybe someday, instead of no. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for self-awareness and long-term planning, knows your actual values. It knows what kind of life feels aligned for you. It knows motherhood isn't part of that picture. The conflict between these two systems, that's where the guilt lives, the shame, the wondering if you're selfish or cold or missing some essential wiring. But you're not. What you're experiencing is cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding two truths at once. I don't want to be a mother, and I'm told I should want to be a mother. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was trained to do. Keep you safe, keep you connected, keep you acceptable. The work isn't fixing yourself, it's updating the system. Here's what this internal conflict often looks like in daily life. You might recognize yourself here, you might not. Either way, you're not alone. You might hesitate when people ask about your future plans, not because you don't know, but because your answer doesn't match what they expect. You might feel guilt when you see a friend's pregnancy announcement. Not jealousy, not longing, just the quiet pressure that you should feel something warmer than neutral. You might over-justify your life choices, listing all the reasons you love your career, your travel plans, your quiet mornings, as if your life needs a defense attorney. You might find yourself saying, maybe someday, when you mean no, because no feels too sharp, too final, too vulnerable to the question that always follows, why not? You might avoid family gatherings where the question will inevitably come up, where your aunt will share stories about how you change your mind once you hold your own, where your existence becomes a problem to solve. You might feel loneliest in rooms full of mothers. Not because you want what they have, but because the language of womanhood suddenly excludes you. Because motherhood becomes the currency of depth, sacrifice, love. And you're left holding a different kind of richness no one knows how to name. You might wonder if you're capable of love. Because we've been told that maternal love is the deepest kind, that if you don't want children, maybe you're missing some fundamental capacity for connection, tenderness, care. You might second-guess yourself in your 30s, not because your desires changed, but because the urgency around you intensified. The biological clock narrative. The you'll regret it warnings. The subtle implication that choosing yourself is choosing loneliness. You might carry shame that you can't quite name, a low hum of wrongness, a sense that you're failing some invisible test of womanhood. And here's the cruelest part. You might start to believe the narrative yourself. That maybe you are selfish. Maybe you are immature. Maybe you just haven't met the right partner, or healed the right wound, or grown up enough to want what grown women want. But let me tell you what's actually happening. You're not underdeveloped. You're undersupported in a culture that still hasn't made room for women who define fulfillment differently. Here's what this conflict costs when it goes unnamed. You edit yourself in every conversation. You preemptively defend choices you shouldn't have to justify. You shrink your vision for your life to avoid uncomfortable questions. You lose access to joy in the present because you're too busy bracing for judgment in the future. You second-guess your clarity. You mistake cultural pressure for inner wisdom. You confuse guilt with moral obligation. And slowly, so slowly you might not notice, you start to disappear. Not because you chose motherhood, but because you couldn't choose not motherhood, without feeling like a failure. But here's the reframe. What society calls selfishness, psychology calls self-knowledge. Choosing not to become a mother isn't a rejection of love, responsibility, or depth. It's a recognition of who you are and what kind of life feels true for you. It's not cold. It's clarity. And clarity, especially when it contradicts cultural expectations, takes courage. So how do you begin to reclaim this? How do you move from guilt to groundedness? Not by convincing yourself. Not by justifying endlessly, by building a new relationship with your own truth. Here's how. A. Witnessing. Fixing. First, stop trying to fix the feeling, the guilt, the doubt, the wondering if you're wrong. These aren't problems to solve. They're responses to a lifetime of messaging, and they deserve witnessing, not warfare. Try this. When the familiar spiral starts, am I selfish? Am I cold? Will I regret this? Pause. Place one hand on your chest. Feel the rise and fall of your breath, and say quietly to yourself, this feeling makes sense. I've been told my whole life that this choice is wrong. Of course I feel conflicted. That doesn't mean I am wrong. You're not trying to erase the feeling. You're just naming it, holding it, letting it exist without letting it define you. B. Body first. Your nervous system has been conditioned to brace every time this topic comes up, to prepare for judgment, to ready a defense. We need to teach it a different response. Practice 1. Orienting, 30 seconds. When you feel the familiar tightness, the guilt, the pressure, the defensiveness, pause. Don't think yet. Turn your head slowly to the left. Notice 3 things you see, then to the right, 3 more things. This simple movement tells your nervous system, I'm here. I'm safe. There's no threat in this room. It interrupts the spiral before it begins. Practice 2. Long exhale 60 seconds. Breathe in for a count of 4. Hold for 1. Exhale for a count of 6. Repeat 3 times. The long exhale activates your vagus nerve, the part of your nervous system responsible for calm. It's not about relaxation, it's about regulation. You're teaching your body, I can hold my truth and still be steady. Practice 3. Hand over heart. When the doubt feels loudest, place your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth, the rhythm, and say out loud or silently, I trust myself. I know what I want. I don't need permission to want it. This isn't affirmation as performance, it's self-contact. A reminder that your body, your knowing, is enough. See boundary scripts. You don't owe anyone an explanation, but sometimes you need language that protects without escalating. Here are 6. For friends, I'm really clear that motherhood isn't part of my vision. I know that might be hard to understand, but I'd love your support in trusting my choice. For family, I appreciate your care, and I know this might not be what you imagined for me, but this is my life, and I need you to respect that. For invasive questions at work, that's personal and not something I discuss in professional settings. For romantic partners, I need you to hear me clearly. I don't want children. If that's a deal breaker for you, I understand. But I won't change my mind, and I need you to believe me. For the inner critic, you're scared I'll be alone. I hear you, but choosing myself isn't the same as rejecting connection. For yourself, in doubt, I'm allowed to want a different life. That doesn't make me less, it makes me honest. Practice these out loud in your car alone. Let your nervous system hear your voice claiming space. D. Language swap. Sometimes guilt hides in the way we speak. Let's rewrite it. Instead of, I can't make it to the baby shower, try, I'm not available that day. Instead of, I feel bad that I don't want kids, try, I feel pressure to want something I don't want. Instead of, maybe I'm just not maternal, try, I'm clear about how I want to spend my life. Instead of, I hope I don't regret this, try, I trust my knowing. These aren't just word games. They're reframes that return power to your clarity instead of feeding doubt. E. Inner child bridge. Somewhere inside you is a younger version of yourself who learned that being different was dangerous. She needs to hear from you now. Close your eyes. Picture her. 6, 10, 13 years old. Sitting alone. Wondering why she doesn't feel what everyone says she should. And say this to her. You didn't deserve to be made to feel wrong. You were just trying to understand yourself. You were just trying to feel safe. You don't have to earn the right to want what you want. You don't have to apologize for who you are. You get to rest now. I've got you. Let that land. Let her hear it. Let yourself hear it. Here's what begins to shift when you stop fighting your truth. Peace stops feeling like something you have to earn through compliance. It starts to feel like clarity. Like alignment. Like the quiet that comes when you stop arguing with yourself. Love stops being something you perform to prove your worth. It becomes something you offer because you have room inside yourself to give, not because you're trying to compensate for what you're not. You stop waiting for permission from your mother, from your partner, from the world. You stop shrinking in conversations. You stop preemptively defending. You stop editing your future to make other people comfortable. You start to notice your life is full, not in the way people expected, but in a way that feels true, that feels yours. And slowly something else happens. You stop wondering if you're enough. Because you realize the question was never fair to begin with. You were always enough. You just needed the world to stop telling you otherwise. You're at a family dinner, someone asks the question, so when are you thinking about kids? This time the air shifts, but you don't. You smile, not the automatic kind, the grounded kind, and you say, quietly, clearly, that's not part of my plan. The silence might be uncomfortable. For them, But for you, it's freedom. Because peace isn't earned by shrinking, it's kept by being whole. If you only remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Your life doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. It just needs to be yours. Before you go, take a breath. Let this settle. And if something here felt like a door unlocking, I'd love to hear which part. Leave a comment, share what resonated, or just know you're not alone in this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting yourself enough to question the narrative. I'll see you in the next one.